It's finally here. The finale of Godzilla in Hell scaling. Now, in the first video, I went over his mainly consistent scaling, about his infinite 5D and up to 60 scaling and upscaling other Godzillas, like SRW or Heisei, Showa, all of them. But I did hint at the end of the video that there were higher metas for Godzilla in Hell, just like outer and even high outer metas. Now, in this video, we will be going over Dungeons and Dragons scaling. And I will be going over the statements on why Godzilla is above Dungeons and Dragons, but also add on with more statements to make it consistent, even if you don't believe in the statement itself. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight into the video. Now, for starters, I'm going to be going over the Dungeons and Dragons cosmology, and then after I'm done with the cosmology, I'll be going over the different rankings of the gods, from lower ranks all the way up to the greater gods, and then luminous being. And then we will get to the statements for Godzilla. So for starters, in the cosmology, the material plane is infinite in size, and it contains an infinite number of alternate universes. There's one ethereal plane per material plane, and each is infinite in size. And eventually, they all bleed into the deep ethereal, which connects to the inner planes of the cosmology. So this is already multiversal plus. And there are 17 outer planes, which are all infinite planes containing infinite layers of size. And theoretically, the abyss contains an infinite amount of infinitely larger layers. So this should at least be just infinitely into multiversal plus, if that's even a thing. And this is consistent because the abyss contains an infinite number of realms with different space-times, and the multiverse includes Mystra and its 3 infinite 5D dimensional spaces / planes. So the cosmology right now is already 3 layers into 5D. And now there are 5-dimensional spaces within the multiverse, and besides the infinite 5-dimensional spaces, all of these dimensions are geometric and superior to lower dimensions. So, for example, if there was a statement that there was 10 dimensions in D&D, they would be 10-dimensional, as they're just superior to the lower number dimensions. The multiverse is composed of infinite higher dimensions, and the far realm is beyond time too, and transcendent over multiverse too. There's only one far realm, meaning that it borders every multiverse in Dungeons and Dragons, and not even the immortals can comprehend the far realms. The far realm is beyond the known D&D multiverse, and the far realm is beyond all concepts of the D&D multiverse, and the rules on the multiverse's dimensionality hold no meaning to the far realm. So those infinite, those infinite higher dimensions that I just mentioned, they're literally nothing to the far realm. So this would already make the cosmology high hyper, but then it would be outer. But then the far realm is beyond that, so that's high outer, since, all the rules of the multiverse hold nothing to the far realm. Now that we have the cosmology out of the way, we're going to go over the gods now. And we're going to be starting off with the lower ranked gods. And in the lower ranked gods, we have the demon lords. And the demon lords, they draw power from the plane, and the plane draws power from them. And if the demons don't maintain their personality, the plane can... If the demons don't maintain their personality, they get corrupted by the plane. And this would mean that the plane and the demons scale to each other. And if you don't know what the plane is the abyss. Or at least a layer of it. And now the demons also control layers inside the abyss and control the looks and how time operates in that layer. And characters like Loth are capable of crushing their own layer into a spiderweb and removing it from the abyss. Tiamat also controls a universal-sized pocket dimension in the 9 hells, and Kali controls an entire abyss layer. Now, Asmodeus can physically move the abyss, and as well as intelligence being a key factor in Dungeons and Dragons scaling. And the intelligence chart is shown here. And the reason why this is important is because, depending on your intelligence, there are civilizations in Dungeons and Dragons that can flip the entire Dungeons and Dragons multiverse with just the Drain Star's energy. And every single god, from lower-rank gods all the way up to luminous being, all transcend humanity, so they would be just above flipping the D&D multiverse. Now we're going to go on to intermediate gods, which is very short, since they don't really have much. Basically, the only thing we have for intermediate gods is that the intermediate gods are usually superior to lesser or lower-ranked gods of the D&D multiverse, except for very few occasions. And now we're going to get into the greater gods. And the greater gods are comparable to the most powerful beings of the far realm, and Zeus, Hades, and 4 other siblings defeated the Titans, which embody concepts such as progression of time throughout the D&D multiverse. Now, Zeus's divine rank is higher than Mystra's rank, who embodied the Weave, which is a construct that supplies magic to the Dungeons & Dragons multiverse. Now, Mystra's death also rearranged the entire Dungeons & Dragons multiverse, and the Lady of Pain casually repaired the multiverse just by speaking the primeval language, and Vecna was also able to stalemate the Lady of Pain's power at the cost of most of his divine strength. Now, the Immortals are able to create or change fifth-dimensional spaces, and as previously mentioned in the early sections of the video, these spaces are de-geometric and superior to the lower dimensional spaces. Now, the Immortals, they draw power from higher dimensions and constantly increase in dimensional power by tapping into higher dimensional spaces. And as I said it earlier in the Dungeons & Dragons cosmology, since there are infinite higher dimensions, they'd be able to draw power from infinitely higher dimensions. Now, the Lady of Pain's true form is also so massive that it can instantly unmake the entire multiverse, which includes Mystra and its 3 infinite 5D dimensional planes, or spaces. Now, the old ones created the Mysterious Multiverse, which is composed of infinite higher dimensions, and a statement from Bruce Head, an author who had a lot of involvement with Mystra's, mentions that the old ones are, in fact, GM stand-ins, and beyond things normally outside the scope of Mystra, such as gods. And Ao exists beyond the concept of divine ranks, transcends the gods, exists beyond stuff that bounds all deities, and is considered a magnitude above all the gods, so he's a tier above them. So basically, wherever you scale everybody I previously mentioned, Ao is basically a tier above them. Now, Ao is also above the concept of alignment, and alignments are universal forces that are bigger than even the gods. And Luminous Being is beyond all conventional multiverses within Dungeons & Dragons, and possibilities of the Dungeons & Dragons setting. And everything is born from Luminous Being, including gods like Ao. And the old ones are unable to comprehend the Luminous Being's existence, and he awaits for them to ascend to his level, meaning that he's also above the Dungeons & Dragons canon. And if you don't know, in Dungeons & Dragons, yes, you can create things, and they're all part of the multiverse, but there's a specific canon that Dungeons & Dragons follow, but basically the higher gods like Ao and Luminous Being, they're basically above every single canon. And you might be wondering why this has anything to do with Godzilla and Hell. Well, Godzilla and Hell is stated to scale above all of D&D, with the IDW Godzilla cosmology containing D&D. And you might be wondering, is this consistent? And yes, it is consistent, because we have statements that Godzilla is above the IDW Godzilla universe, and that God is above, and created the IDW multiverse, which contains Dungeons & Dragons. So even if you don't believe that Godzilla is above, the D&D characters themselves, even without that, he would still be maybe even stronger than all of them still without that statement, since blatantly he's above the IDW Godzilla multiverse. God's above the IDW Godzilla universe, which contains D&D, since IDW has access to D&D, but is owned by Hasbro. But also the fact that, if you want to argue, since the D&D cosmology is inside the IDW Godzilla cosmology, everybody in Hell basically upscaled D&D, since the Torturers are stated stronger than anything Godzilla has previously faced, and that God-Demon was the greatest challenge that Godzilla ever faced, so you can argue that they all upscaled the D&D multiverse. If you want to argue God being above the D&D multiverse, from the last video saying, he views it all as finite and all that, you can, but it's iffy, since the gods of D&D are also just above their cosmology, as previously mentioned. But basically, Godzilla scales above all of D&D, and even without that statement, he's at least above the cosmology of the verse, which is High Outer. Or if you don't go with High Outer, he's at least Outer. And there's multiple statements supporting that, as I previously mentioned. And now we're going to go on to the hacks of the D&D multiverse that Godzilla would resist, since he's above everybody. Now, all greater gods can recover damage from any damage dealt to them, which include attacks that erase you on conceptual levels, which would grant high godly regen for them. Gods are concepts and symbols, which would be concept embodiment. Gods manipulate chaos and law, which would give them law manipulation and chaos manipulation. And greater gods can kill things with just a thought, arrange fate in such a way that the person dies a horrible death, and are omniscient to the point where they know their opponent's next move just by sheer knowledge. Wishes can undo actions, which would be casuality manipulation. Demigods and above can bend reality based on their portfolios and domains, and true naming magic encompasses all of creation and reality on its entirety, which would grant concept manipulation and concept embodiment. Disbelief convinces the summoner that things around them don't exist, and the things in question can't harm the caster as long as the spell is active, which would be subjective reality. Irresistible dance and dance of pain, which is Broadway force. Syllable of detachable removes all saves, which is basically resistances in Dungeons & Dragons. Druid's decay converts the target into dust. Abjura can send beings back to their plane of existence, and syllable of exile sends the target into a confusing pocket dimension. So both of these would grant BFR or battlefield removement. God and Godzilla in Hell are stated to be a concept of love, and while the scan is indeed fake, Busamudi says that the words itself are fine, which would grant God the concept of love. And Godzilla is just above that. Gods can depower any number of gods with his will alone, so that's power nullification. Gods can force a being to undergo erasure, which is the erasure existence. And gods possess knowledge of any event in the future that will affect them and develop counters to those events, which is precognition. Now, while GIH doesn't have these hacks, GIH is basically, since he's above the D&D multiverse, he would be above all of these hacks. Especially the ones that are really useful is that he's above erasure existence, concept embodiment, power nullification, and precognition. Now, what's cool about precognition is that if you're in a debate and you argue that Godzilla is above these hacks, if your opponent were to bring out a hack that says they can predict the future and all that, it wouldn't do anything to Godzilla since he's just above gods that can do the exact same thing, and yet they still can't beat him, even by predicting the future. So, even though this was shorter than last Godzilla in Hell scaling video, this does go over the higher end arguments for D&D. And even if you don't agree with Godzilla upscaling, D&D itself with the statement, as I provided, he's still above the D&D multiverse, since it's inside of the IDW Godzilla multiverse that he's just above and able to destroy. But, anyways, now that we've gone over Godzilla in Hell scaling, who should the next one be? Or do you guys want to see a versus battle? Let me know down in the comments below. And also, thank you to Demetrius, I think his name was, on Discord, for the thumbnail of this video. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Spread this around, as I still people see saying that GIH is building level. So spread this video to them, and I will see you guys in the next one.